Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Will Ripple's technology kill off its own clients? Because look, there are many in the world of crypto, in particular on the Bitcoin maximalist side, that believe that cryptocurrency, or as they'd like to believe mostly, Bitcoin, will just kill off the entire legacy financial system. All the banks on the planet, financial institutions, you name it, poof, all gone because Bitcoin makes them unnecessary. This is an actual belief. And so will any means to that end result in this happening? Will Ripple's clients cease to exist because of Bitcoin or XRP? Well, of course not. That's a childish idea that I've been pushing back against for some time. But some people still question, like, well, wait a minute, if XRP is just used as a bridge currency, couldn't individuals just use XRP themselves and move money around? Like, even if you're trying to do basically what RippleNet's on-demand liquidity is trying to do, convert from one fiat currency to another. Say the goal is to literally convert from the United States dollar to the Mexican peso, or just pick your currency. Well, you can manually make these types of transactions yourself. You know, you can move the XRP across borders yourselves without Ripple's technology, and so you can take out the middleman there. So you might think, well, wait a minute, since that's technologically true and possible, isn't Ripple's business model flawed? Well, no, most certainly not, because one of the benefits to getting people and banks to utilize this technology is that it's done sight unseen. You're not trying to get the masses, the typical retail type customers out there, into crypto. Rather, you're saying nothing to them. You're not communicating anything to them, because XRP is used in the plumbing. You basically, if anything, say, no, just keep doing what you're doing. And then the platforms that adopt RippleNet technology, and specifically on-demand liquidity, utilizing XRP as a bridge currency, it makes things more efficient. It makes them faster, moving money in real time. And so, no, it's very difficult, as it turns out, to onboard people into crypto, and only about 2% of people on the planet have ever bought any crypto at any point in time. Some numbers say 3%, but whatever it is, it's almost nobody, and that's taken over a decade. So even if adoption exponentially increases, which arguably it already has started to do, it's much easier to just get this adopted. And if at some point in the future people just want to do these transactions manually themselves, well, that would be way further down the future, and okay, fine. And XRP would still be utilized as a bridge currency, because there's going to be all sorts of different tokens out there, so it doesn't harm XRP holders. So there's nothing to worry about in that regards as far as I'm concerned. But there was this article from Business Cloud, which I came across thanks to my fellow XRP YouTuber Crypto Eddie. Just yesterday, she shared this on Twitter, on her profile there. And I found the article interesting. So there are a couple key parts that I highlighted that I want to go ahead and run through with you, and just try and shred this idea that Bitcoin maxis have, that banks are bad and they need to be torn down and they will cease to exist. It's a completely absurd position. But I do want to be clear, I don't have a financial background of any kind. I'm not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And I thought it'd be worth bringing this up in the first place because the tweet that's on your screen now, because it comes from one of the most well-known Bitcoin maximalists on the entire planet, none other than Anthony Pompliano, who now has 1.5 million followers on Twitter. He does believe in the idea of a one-size-fits-all. One crypto to rule them all. We don't need the rest of the stuff. Just build layer 2 and 3 technology on top of Bitcoin, rather than having a more reasonable foundation in terms of layer 1 technology. No. We just Bitcoin. And why? Because it was the first. Because reasons. That's pretty much it. I've seen him make the case. I don't find it particularly compelling, and I'm pro Bitcoin, mind you. I've held Bitcoin since November 2017. I just don't think that it's a one coin to rule them all type of situation, which is why I've joked many times in the past. What's that? You wear a size 13 tennis shoe? Here's a size 6, bitch. Make it work. No, it's not a one-size-fits-all world. It's just not going to happen. But here's his tweet. And he said this many times. I pulled up one from August of 2019 where he simply wrote, "Long Bitcoin, short the bankers." Long Bitcoin, short the bankers. Now, of course, he loves it when the banks start to adopt Bitcoin, and he'll applaud them for that, but still he says long Bitcoin, short the bankers, which doesn't make a ton of sense for a number of reasons. And there have been articles written on it, like this one from Crypto News from March of 2019 titled, "Why Pomp Thinks You Should Long Bitcoin, Short the Bankers." And I want to read just the top right here. I don't want to read the whole article, but it reads as follows. "Trusting math and software code, Bitcoin, is a better plan than putting your faith in humans, the bankers. Bitcoin replaces, not improves, the current system. The same way electric lights replace gas lights. So there you go, folks. Bitcoin replaces the current system. It doesn't improve it. It completely replaces it. And this is a completely absurd idea. Anybody that says that XRP is going to replace the entire system too, they're equally nutty. That does not make sense. Okay, that's not how this works. And so just like talk about, I mean, how silly it is to think these things. You know, look, there will be parts of the legacy financial system that cease to exist because there are laggards, right, in adoption of new technology, and there will be firms that in the world of finance, legacy finance, that outright refuse to adopt new technology and they get left behind. However, this is the case in every industry on the planet. The idea that no financial systems will adapt and all banks will cease to exist is a childish thought, and it's also the dream of ideologically driven Bitcoin maximalists. And so the truth is that, the fintech firms like Ripple can bring legacy firms into the modern era, and that is the inevitable outcome. XRP is at the core of Ripple's business model. It's a decentralized cryptocurrency and arguably the best cryptocurrency on the planet for payments. And this is not a threat to Ripple's clients. Financial institutions will not lose all of their customers and revenue streams because XRP exists. Not ever. That's a great thing, not just for banks, but for XRP holders as well. And you can think there's so many reasons why. It's like to think that banks just go away because Bitcoin is to not understand what banks do and the value proposition. It's not that they wouldn't need to shift necessarily. They can just get more into crypto. And I don't believe for a moment that 100% of humans on the entire planet will ever want to take self-custody of their entire net worth. Because look, in terms of, think about it, if you lose your private key, it's gone. Not everybody is going to want that responsibility. They're not going to care about a counterparty taking custody of crypto on their behalf, in particular if it results in the assets actually being insured. There are people that are going to prefer that. They'd rather have the counterparty risk and make sure that it's insured within a system that they trust. And there will be people that despise them, like, no, I don't want a counterparty holding my assets. Even if they would insure it, I don't want them holding, and that's fine too. But it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all, and the fact that some of these Bitcoin maxis don't get that, it's just makes my brain want to explode. It don't make no damn sense. And so then there's this article, and there's a few parts of this I wanted to highlight here. It's from a Business Cloud titled, Why Banking's Legacy is Fintech's Future, and they actually do go on to cite Ripple in this article. Reports of traditional banking's demise have been greatly exaggerated. High street banks and other long-established financial institutions still number their customers in the billions. By comparison, even the most successful, tech-savvy challengers are nothing but niche players. But the numbers don't tell the whole story about the often fractious relationship between legacy finance and fintechs. Because while old and new money are usually portrayed as deadly rivals competing for finite market share, the truth is that neither can live without the other. The future of financial services does not belong either to the big banks or their digital rivals. It lies in partnerships, mutual profit, and a focus on what each of us does best. And so I mostly agree with that. I will say those banks that don't adapt, they're going to go the way of the dodo, my favorite extinct avian creature, whereas the fintechs, if they're worth their salt, they're not going to go away. If it came down to it, and none of the legacy financial system refused, or of all the legacy financial system refused to collaborate with all fintechs, that's not happening, obviously. But just say it were, the fintechs would win. If you're talking about the legacy financial system not advancing and they're not on their own, the fintechs would still win. They just exponentially increase their market share. That's just how it works. Pick your industry. It doesn't matter. Now, that's not what's happening. So it's not one or the other. The truth is that you are seeing all sorts of blending of the old and the new, and Ripple's all about that. And they are beginning to have an exponential increase in terms of adoption with RippleNet and specifically with XRP as a bridge currency via on-demand liquidity. And so there's this section. This is where they talk about Ripple. While fintechs are perfectly placed to build next-generation financial services, including through partnership with providers like Ripple who can circumvent international borders throughout the blockchain, we need an infrastructure on which to deliver them. That's why the war between legacy and fintech is a phony one. Since both sides have what the other one craves, our future lies in combining banks' global reach with Fintech's vision to the profit of us all. Yeah, and so that mostly makes sense. Now, as far as them citing here Ripple circumventing international borders, I wouldn't say that's the case. Circumvent isn't. That sounds like a nasty word because they're totally compliant in the corridors in which they operate. When you say circumvent, it looks like they're trying to go outside of the system into the realm of shadiness and nefariousness, but that's not what's going on. So I certainly wouldn't have worded it like that, but I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'm just nitpicking. But no, partnership is the way to go. And so the more forward-thinking firms out there in legacy finance, they've acknowledged this. And that's why they're getting out there and actually partnering with Ripple. That's why RippleNet has been blowing up, especially throughout 2021. It's amazing. We're at a point where now, in case you haven't heard this, it's worth knowing, on-demand liquidity, which requires the usage of XRP, counts for 25% of transactions on RippleNet. 25%. It's going to be much higher than that in the future. It'll be much, much higher than that, I do believe. But anyway, the piece continues. Don't think that this is piggybacking. This piggybacking is just one-way traffic. For banks, the value of partnering with fintechs is that they don't have to develop new services and payments infrastructure themselves, but can adopt and roll them out to their existing customer base. And that benefits both parties, enabling each play to their particular strengths. Now, by allying with fintechs and EMIs, traditional banks can keep their role as payments processors, but on a much larger scale than before. Meanwhile, their partners will shoulder much of the burden of customer service and support. This is a costly and time-consuming business for banks, and, let's face it, digital firms are better at it. Ding, ding, ding. How about that? And then they write this at the bottom. Maybe a few years ago, the idea of allying with a fintech would be fraught with risk, adding a layer of uncertainty between them and the customer and posing existential problems about compliance, fraud, AML, and KYC. So AML is anti-money laundering, KYC is know your customer. They're just legal requirements. But not a problem with RippleNet. Ripple does comply with all of these global requirements in the corridors that they operate in, period. Anyway, piece continues. But that's no longer an issue. Fintech is a rapidly maturing sector where regulatory oversight is as strict as for traditional banks. What's more, fintechs already use the same monitoring as banks or have already developed best-in-class systems alternatives. And so look, I'll just to sum it all up, I just think the Bitcoin maxi thought process out there, it's illogical, it doesn't make sense, it's fantasy land, it's never going to happen, but there will be an increased adoption of cryptocurrencies. Hopefully Bitcoin's part of that because I do like Bitcoin. People, to this point, we'll see if it changes, but people care about standards. Bitcoin's the first, so I'm not saying that first mover doesn't account for anything. In fact, that's part of the reason that XRP being applied for this use case as a bridge currency, that's meaningful because standards do matter. So I'm acknowledging that. So Bitcoin may stick around forever. I'd like for it to. That would be fantastic. And if not, okay, we'll just be monitoring the entire space and things evolve. Sometimes the first doesn't end up sticking around. Would you talk about any technology or platform, the earliest of internet websites? Sometimes the first to arrive, they don't end up lasting. So we'll see. I don't know. The open market gets to figure it out. That's why I love free and open markets. It's a messy process. Lots of people lose money. Lots of people make money. But that's how it should be. You're an adult. You get to place your own bets. You get to make your own investments, and you get to decide how much exposure you want to risky assets. That's just how it is. And so in my book, I'm a fan of all of that. But no, the banks aren't going away. They're just going to evolve. They'll do increased custody. There will still be a need for loans. Banks are not going away. They're just going to, the need for them, it's going to shift, and the way in which they do business will continue to shift, but fine. Why shouldn't they have to adapt? Of course they should. That's fine. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.